Do you find that you're starting to experience symptoms like pain in your shoulders, pain in your hips, a weaker low back, and it seemed to just kind of come out of nowhere? Are you starting to question, well, what did I do for this pain? Because nothing in my lifestyle has changed. You're going to want to join me and Dr. Andrea Smith as she rejoins the show this week, and we take a look at symptoms that you might be experiencing that could be heralding in an early transition and what you can do to get ahead of transitioning through perimenopause gracefully. Hi, I'm Adrienne Irizarry. I'm an Eastern medicine practitioner who is passionate about women's health and helping women live their best lives. My goal is to put you in the driver's seat of your menstrual health, offering period solutions for a symptom-free life. Statements made in this program are for educational purposes only and not intended as a substitution for medical consultation or advice. We do not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases. This podcast is inclusive and welcomes all gender identities. The focus of the program is on biological function, and we will use the term women throughout, but it is referencing physiological and social challenges for biology, not identity. Come as you are, I am happy you're here and welcome all performances of identity. I hope you find something helpful in this show. Welcome back to another episode of the Reproductive Rebel podcast. I am so excited to welcome back Dr. Andrea Smith. You guys loved our podcast episode that we did earlier this season so much that I absolutely had to have her back. So welcome back to the show, Dr. Andrea.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me back. This is awesome.
So when Andrea and I were talking about the different topics, there's so many that we could cover. And I wanted you all to get to know this beautiful practitioner and human being in our last episode. And one of the conversations that we had, she was like, oh, I'm starting to see some trends in my office that I think would be amazing to cover on the show. So today is one of those. So if you are 35 and older, this show is absolutely for you. If you are close to 35, definitely tune in because this is going to be one of those conversations that will be eye-opening for a lot of people. And at the same time, a lot of this is stuff we should be talking about. And so we both felt that it was really important to shine some light on it.
For sure. Definitely. I'm so excited.
So when we are talking about perimenopause, I know it's that kind of phrase, right? And I think perimenopause is one of those words that we're starting to use a lot more, but there's still an awful lot of confusion in terms of when it could happen, what is it going to look like, that kind of thing. So I feel like this is a really important topic to cover as many times as we possibly can on this show. So as a chiropractor, what are you seeing in your practice around this age group?
Yeah. So I know when you and I decided to talk about this, we just had a quick conversation. It's over the last, I would say, year to 2 years, what I'm seeing is a large spike in my patient base being between that age of like 33, 34, up to about 48 to 50. So that kind of range in there where we know a lot of changes happen and all of that. But it was a lot of I was seeing women coming in with bilateral, so two-sided joint pain, unexplained, no reasoning. There was no, what we call in any profession, a mechanism of injury. There was no, basically, they didn't fall down. They didn't start a new workout routine. Their exercise didn't change. Their food didn't change. Nothing had really changed in their lives, but they were having unexplained joint pain, sometimes bilateral and all over the body, most of the times in the hips and the shoulders and the knees is where we see it the most. And that was combined with coming in with digestive issues all of the sudden that they'd never had before and nothing had changed for them. or unexplained bloating that they'd never experienced before. And these are, some of these women had issues with their cycles in the past, but, nothing outside of a realm where I'd be like, oh, yeah, well, we can point back to that. And so it was starting to really like in my brain, I'm like, okay, I'm a chiropractor. I adjust the spine. I allow the nervous system to heal the body the way it needs to heal. But these women are still experiencing all of these intense things that they're going through. So I'm like, let me like just dive into this. And it was actually, we talked about it a little bit the last time I was on, but it was more of a personal journey for me that allowed me as a practitioner to be like, oh, maybe I need to look into this being an issue. And I was having joint pain and I get adjusted, I exercise, I eat healthy. Like I not perfect, but I do pretty well. And all of the sudden, I had a huge shift at around 41. And it was nothing had changed except probably my stress levels had probably gone through the roof the 2 years before and then had continued on. And I started having these same kind of symptoms that my patients were coming in with. And I didn't even realize it that until I saw you, which was amazing. And you recommended Dr. Lisa Parsons to me. And I started actually getting some like diving a little deeper into it. And I was, in perimenopause and my hormones were all over the place. My gut was a mess, like all of this stuff. And that's what allowed me to look at my patients, like give them a different lens to look through, be it not just this musculoskeletal issue that you're coming in with. This is a metabolic kind of global issue in the body that you're experiencing. And yes, can we put perimenopause label on it? Yeah, we totally could. But I feel like that then pigeonholes women into like this. So now you have perimenopause. So what we're going to do is just give you bioidentical hormones. We're going to give you this, and then you're
Mm.
just going to kind of ride this out until menopause, and then good luck. Like, so like, we'll figure this all out, and it's going to be. And we talked, and not we, but people will talk to us. It's going to be bad. It's going to be awful. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. And in talking with you and some other practitioners, we were just like, this doesn't have to be horrible. Like,
No.
I don't have to feel like this. Like, I can actually have a beautiful transition into this next phase of my life. So why don't we have that conversation with women instead of focusing so much on all yes, acknowledging these symptoms are happening, but how can we steer that conversation into be like, okay, then how can I support my body so this experience isn't so painful, isn't so intense, isn't so emotionally draining? And so that's where it's blown my mind because changing that trajectory and just by helping some of my patients tweak just a couple of little things, like a little bit here, a little bit there, having them see you, having them get in with a good OBGYN that they really trust and like feel safe with, it can change the game when you're supported and you don't feel like you're losing your mind. So,
Yes. Oh my gosh, you made so many good points in there. You're starting to see this at 33. So, just to kind of give you a Chinese medicine perspective, Chinese medicine believes that the body changes every 7 years and that we experience a big shift in our energetic and our physical body every time we hit one of these 7 year benchmarks. Now, this could be 2 years on either side, right? So you were talking about 33. One of the chi changes, one of the biggest shifts that we start to see is at 35, right? So here we go, 2 years on either side. I remember when my chi change kicked in and it was about 37 and I was like, what happened? And really for me, it had to do with stamina because I was doing a lot of things to support my body already, but I had always attributed my stamina for social events and things like that to the fact that I'm an introvert masquerading as an extrovert, right? So I just thought that I put too much out and I need more time to recover. But I started realizing that no, I have to actually schedule a little more breathing room into my schedule than I have historically. I can't do event on Saturday, event on Sunday, and roll into work on Monday morning, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, as my grandmother used to say, and not expect that my energy was going to be different. And what I was finding is I would do those two events, and then Monday I felt like a zombie.
yeah.
So your body extends an invitation to you at 35 that says, hey, we need to revisit the pace of your life and the tempo that you're living at and how the stressors of the modern world are starting to exceed what you have for vital energy on board. And a lot of us don't listen to, recognize, acknowledge that invitation is being extended because we're not taught to look for it. So we blow through that 35 marker and we're still trying to work like we're 22 on, very few hours of sleep, rolling out of bed and, dealing with the same amount of life demands and expecting that our energy is going to show up for us in the same way. And it's not just energy, it's like our whole body in general. I keep talking about it energetically because we're looking at the vital energy or the chi in our body, but it affects all the rest of our cellular processes in our system too, right? So if there's not enough vital energy to make the car go, things start to wobble a little bit. So by the time women hit their next change at 42, right? 2 years on either side, I see a
Mhm.
record number of women, 39, 40, coming to me going, well, my cycles were fine till about 6 months ago. I don't know what happened. And it's because they didn't acknowledge or meet the invitation that they were being extended at 35. And now they're closer to that 42 shift where yin begins to decline. And they are really starting to feel it at that point and how depleted they are when they go into that stage is how extreme the symptoms that present become.
Mhm.
So, like you were saying, we absolutely can go into this phase of our life in a super gentle and well nourished and resourced kind of way if we know what it is that our body's asking of us and what it needs in return.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I've loved whenever I've heard you speak, I've heard you talk about the 7-year cycles. And it always, no matter, like, I think I've heard you give the talk at least 3 times now, and I'm always learning something new. And I'm always like, yes, like that explains like these certain things that I see in patients and certain things that I see in clients that I care for. And it's helped open my brain to be like, okay, this is not a fixing thing. This is how do we nourish and support and resource this person, no matter what 7-year cycle they're in? What does
Mhm.
that look like? And it's about resourcing. And sometimes, like, yeah, it's about slowing down a little bit, maybe taking one less appointment a day, maybe taking weekends off, like doing this stuff and just supporting your system because I know that you and I are fairly similar. We are drivers, we are worker bees. Like we actually thrive in our work, like we feel energized by it, but to the point where sometimes it's hard for us to be like, no, I got to step back. Like,
Mhm.
even though I know it's going to be good that I do that work, it's not going to be good for me in a couple of days or in a few weeks, or it's not going to support my system in a whole global sense. So being able to stop as a human being and just take a look and be like, I love my work. I thrive in that drive, but that drive isn't thriving with me anymore. Like, so how do I find that balance? And that's what I explain to some of my female patients when they come in with these, like, it's sudden cycle issues, sudden joint pain issues, sudden, oh my gosh, I have low back pain. I've never had this before. I need all this imaging. I need all this stuff. I need all this invasion into my body. And it's like, yes, if certain rounds of symptoms show up, yeah, we definitely need to dive into that. But could it also be, we have this saying in chiropractic where you look for the horse, not the zebra. Like you
Yeah.
look for the thing that it don't go zebra already. Like let's pull it back. And could it be as simple as we're not getting you resourced properly? So this perimenopause at when I have 35 and 36-year-old women coming into me and saying like, I skipped period, I
Mhm.
have acne again, I have joint pain in my knees and my shoulders that I didn't do anything outside of what I normally do. I can't work out the way I used to. Like all of these things, it's like, okay, but what has gone on the year before or the year before that? Like, it's not just what happened last week to you. Yes, it is part of it, but where are you resourced and what's going on? And that's where you have come in and been very helpful as a touchstone for me as a practitioner to be like, hey, I got this going on. Like, what are your thoughts? Like, and to be able to collaborate in that way. And just, I have this deep passion, and I know it's like part of why you're doing what you do is that women need to be resourced better in order to perform better for everybody and also for themselves. And I think where our performance comes in is we think about performing for everybody else and not for ourselves. And that's where all of these issues start to come up and these intense perimenopause symptoms so early on. It's not like we're into our 45, 50-year-old range and we're 30. I'm seeing like 32, 33-year-olds with these issues. And I feel like it shouldn't be happening for them. Like there should still be some ease. Like they're still thinking they're in that weird realm. And you and I talked about this where it's like, am I having babies? Am I worried I'm pregnant? And then am I going into menopause? Like it's this weird time in your 30s and early 40s where you're feeling all of those things at once. And that's where you talk about like the 7-year cycle. So, yeah.
I love that you brought that up because as you're talking about the joint pain that people are experiencing, my brain automatically goes yin deficiency, right? Because that's one of the hallmark symptoms that the body needs a little more love and support in that particular department. And when we work beyond our capacity, and I'm using work as the benchmark, I mean, this could just be lifing really hard, right? Because if somebody's a stay-at-home mom, like maybe you're not working in the traditional 9 to 5 W-2 sense, you're still doing work, okay?
Oh,
And
yeah,
so
100%.
a lot.
Yeah.
And, the compensation and benefits, no, I'm kidding. So, even when you're really passionate, like we are about the work that we do, when we aren't creating that space, I know for me, I am so enlivened by the work that I do and helping people and seeing those aha moments in my clients and having those messages that come in where they go, "Oh my gosh, like, is my period really supposed to start without any symptoms? Like, I didn't even know that it was coming and it just appeared." And I'm like, "Yes, that's exactly what it's supposed to be like." And, you know, having those moments are so incredibly rewarding for me because it means that somebody else is taking this work and like really like realizing the benefits of learning to create that balance in work and life. And I still struggle with this. So I teach this all the time and I still struggle with this because I have those moments where I create that space for myself and then I feel restless and guilty like I'm supposed to be productive and I'm supposed to be doing something and I need to be moving or I need to be creating something or there's always something on the to-do list to do.
Yeah. Always.
And always, it's so rude. And yet, those moments that I actually truly throw whatever it is to the wind and say, "You know what? That's a tomorrow problem. That's going to be there tomorrow. I'm just going to be present and sit here and listen to the birds and have my tea and enjoy where I'm at right now." I never ever regret having those moments. But sometimes it's like a total mental exercise because our culture values productivity so highly and in a framework that is designed for testosterone driven human beings, where they get a burst of testosterone every 15 minutes, their whole hormone expression is different. We experience our hormone cadence in 28 to 30 days. They experience it in a 24-hour cycle. So we have different gifts. We excel at different things. We have different stamina at different parts throughout our cycle. And when I started planning my work around the gifts of my cycle, rather than just trying to bulldoze my way through the same level of work, the same capacity, the same number of clients every single day in and day out, my whole world shifted because I wasn't trying to overspend what was in my bank account in terms of energy before, you know what I mean? So I wasn't creating a
Mhm.
deficit for myself. And that is so critically important, not only in terms of all of the things that we tell ourselves, right? Our internal critic can be a really nasty person
Mhm.
and tell us that we're lazy and tell us that we're failing and tell us that we're not doing enough, and then the shame and guilt creep in, right? I hear this so much with my clients. And then when you reach this phase of your life and your body is, waving flags and screaming at you like, girl, slow down. I'm
Mhm.
begging you. Here's how I'm trying to communicate that I'm begging you, right?
Yep.
That's what symptoms are, is
Yep.
the only way that the body has to communicate with you that something isn't working right. And when we listen to that, we recover so much faster. When we try to push through them, and as I'm saying this, I am totally shaking my finger at myself because I'm guilty of this, right? I think we all are at some degree
Yeah.
where like the body goes, you really need a nap now. And you say, girl, sit down, be quiet. I've got too much to do today, right? We've all been there.
Mhm.
And, when we allow ourselves some grace around what we can do in one day, and we do it with a mind's eye to where we are in our cycle, and we're not overdrafting the bank account at times where we need to be pouring into it,
Yeah.
then our symptom load goes down exponentially, especially the joint stuff that you were talking
Mhm.
about that people see so early on.
Yep.
The stress of our modern world is so much beyond the capacity of really what our nervous systems can handle. And I know that you see this every single day. I'm going to pause this incredible episode to share an opportunity for you to join me as a reproductive rebel. As you know, I'm a holistic women's health practitioner who practices with a focus in East Asian medicine. I truly am one of a kind in the way that I practice, and that is a part of what makes me a rebel. I am here to disrupt a healthcare model for women and provide natural and effective solutions for all phases in a woman's life. Do you feel called to make a difference in women's health? Whether you are already a practitioner working in this space, wishing to add to your toolkit, or you are just a passionate rebel with a calling to make a difference for others, as I was at the start of my career in this field, the Holistic Women's Health Practitioner Program is open for enrollment. I am looking for passionate, committed, and heart centered people who desire to make a difference in the women's health space and desire to make it a place where women feel seen and heard, where their needs and concerns aren't gaslit, but really taken seriously and met with compassion and education to help them reach their goals. Does this sound like you? If so, please check out the program link in the show notes and schedule a one-on-one talk with me or join a free information session. Or if you know that without a doubt this is where you want to go, enroll and get started today. Together, we will make a difference for the future of women's healthcare. I can't wait for you to join me.
I have never met anyone as charismatic and downright passionate about women's health as Adrienne Irizarry is. Not only is it just a delight to be in her presence as a friend, but as a student, her passion for her work, it comes through so prominently, and it helps ignite the excitement that lives inside of me as her student. We literally laugh, we cry, we share, we support. The knowledge is endless, and the infinite capacity of her being for this work and teaching and mentoring is just astounding. It's so beautiful. I can't think of a better instructor to be working with this topic. We are powerful. Women hold the most beautiful power within their beings. And Adrienne is the perfect example of she. She is the epitome of woman.
And now, back to the show.
It is mind blowing to sometimes see, because of the stress response evaluations that we do, to see actually the physical ramifications of long term chronic stress, and not just emotional or energetic. Like, it's physical stress, it's chemical stress. So, the foods that we eat and the things that we drink and the medications that we take, like all of that is a stress on the system in some way. And yes, can we grow from stress? Yes. When things are stressed, they tend to grow and change and we find new ways to navigate. But a lot of times in our modern culture, those new ways we find to navigate are new ways to add more things in. Like
Mhm.
it's not new ways to take things off our plate and support ourselves. It's new ways to stress out more. And because we don't feel like there's this ingrained process with a lot of people, like if we are not working 60 to 70 hours a week, if I'm not dying of fatigue when I get home, then I didn't do enough that day. And that is not a healthy way to live, like in any way. And I'm not saying that to be like, don't work, like don't do anything or don't do anything like that. Yes, drive yourself if that's what feels good to you. Like work hard. I love hard work. I love it so much. It feels good to me to work hard. But I also have to tell myself that it will feel good to let my body rest. It will feel good. And that can look like anything, and sometimes it's those little things that I find is hardest for people to grab onto. And I'm like, do you have 15 minutes in your day? Just 15 minutes? Yeah, probably. Could you go outside and walk barefoot in the grass for 15 minutes or go for a walk in your neighborhood? Or could you just, call a friend and communicate? Could you write a letter? Anything to pause your brain for 15 minutes just to recalibrate for the rest of the day. What would that do for you? What would 15 minutes? It's probably nothing in your time bank. You can probably pull 15 minutes. There's probably 15 minutes you've wasted. We've all wasted scrolling, looking at myself there, wasted scrolling or looking at stuff on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok, all of other ways that we have wasted time where we could have taken those time and banked it for ourselves. And we could do things like have a glass of water peacefully while looking out a window or, just something where we pause. And I find that to be the hardest ask I have for patients. Like I could tell them to go get an x-ray or an MRI and they're doing it, they're scheduling it. Like that doesn't seem like anything big. And to me, I'm like, that's a huge step. And to them, but me asking for 15 minutes, it's like, nope, can't do it. Like, don't have it. And it's because we've scheduled ourselves so intensely that our needs have taken that back seat in the scheduling department. Like, I know if I have to put it on my calendar, I have to be like, okay, I am going to go for a walk at 6 a.m. because that's the only time I'm going to have to just put in my headphones, listen to some music and chill out. Or one of my self-care things is to come see you. I have to put it in my calendar and still sometimes I don't get to. So it's like, we've almost got to schedule it for ourselves because if we don't, between stress and so many other variables, we are going to start seeing women younger and younger starting this process. And I think, I'm not a fertility expert, but that can lead to so many things down the road. So it's like, don't feed into the stress. Like you're not going to win. You don't win a prize for dying as the most stressed out person. Like nobody's giving you an award at your funeral for that. So just try and find that some sort of peace within your day. And I think it could be a game changer.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, nobody lays on their deathbed and said, I wish I worked harder. They always go, I wish I had taken that trip. I wish I had seen that thing. I wish I had, in terms of those moments that they worked through, and you made a beautiful point about 15 minutes. Like sometimes I think it's a value thing. Like we don't think we deserve to take that 15 minutes. Everybody else is the priority, particularly when you're a parent too.
Yeah.
It's so easy to put your kids ahead of your own needs because you want the best for your kids. And one thing that I've learned a lot in the last few years is I can be a better parent. I can be more present. I can show up for my kids in the way that I want to if I prioritize that 15 minutes, if I prioritize that half hour. Like I've made a bigger lunch break block for myself so that I can go walk. Maybe I only get 15 minutes. But anybody who follows me on Instagram, you'll see random pictures of flowers and clouds and foliage and stuff like that. That is my conscious attempt at literally and figuratively slowing down and smelling the roses.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm now the weirdo that crawls into bushes and goes, "Oh, that flower's so pretty." And I take a picture of it. But it slows my walk down because even when you're going for a walk, if you're power walking, your nervous system still thinks you're being chased by a tiger.
Yeah.
So if you're sauntering and you're meandering and you're enjoying the sound of the birds or the fresh air coming into your lungs and you're present in that moment, like I love the earbuds and the music. I notoriously do that as well, but that's also where my picture taking comes in because I'm watching what it is that's going on around me and I'm soaking it in.
Yeah.
And all of those things are so critically important in terms of helping to prevent these things from happening at younger ages. We're already seeing epidemic levels of young girls starting their periods between 9 and 11. Like seeing an earlier onset for perimenopause right now. And I want to put this out there because a lot of people go, "Oh, I'm going through perimenopause early." And it's like, well, no, you could be just having cycle challenges, but let's dive into this deeper.
Yep.
Right. But, the average age in the United States is 51 to be going through that whole process of your actual period stopping. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just like when anyone who's ever had a little girl or been around little girls, they had that little round baby face at 7, and by 14, they look like young women, and their
Mm-hmm.
whole body, their physical face, everything structurally changes. It's because it took 7 years. Here's that magic 7 again, between 7 and 14. And I feel like for a lot of people, that's like the clearest picture that you can get about how long that transition takes place. Well, it's the same thing for perimenopause. You're walking a journey toward, right? But Chinese medicine doesn't expect that you're actually going to be on the threshold of the menopausal transition until you're 49 or a couple years on either side of it,
Wow.
right? So when we're doing this early and we're seeing these things early, this is why there's so many accounts out there that have all of these memes and jokes and crazy videos about the roller coaster that is all of the hormones and anxiety and sleep disruption and weight gain and bloating and all of these things. And sometimes I chuckle at them, and sometimes it just makes me really sad that we're normalizing this roller coaster in our culture, but it's really stemming from overwork, undernourished, and undersupported women in our culture. And we're all hitting this stage. I say we're all because I'm in that zone right now too. And we're hitting it at astronomical numbers of women that are starting this process right now. And yet we're only really starting to have the conversation about what is actually happening during this time frame. I created a course called Coming into Second Spring because my mother, when she went through her transition, she was absolutely distraught because she couldn't find enough information about it. She goes, "Adrienne, if you do nothing else," she says, "please help other people understand what's happening inside their bodies." Because for her, she'd been having hot flashes for 15 years because she had a hysterectomy. She started going through a false menopause expression, even though she kept her ovaries. And then she started actually going through her chemical transition because her ovaries began their shutdown process. And she was like, "Oh my God, stop the bus. Am I ever going to get off?"
Yeah.
And, there are so many people that are experiencing this. And like you said about hormones, that's the answer. The allopathic traditional model will say hormones or surgery to deal with some of the symptoms and unfortunate symptoms that do come up during this time frame. But there's so many things that can happen from a prioritizing your self-care standpoint. Several herbal formulas popped into my head when you were talking about some of the symptoms that people were going through, because there are ways to nourish your body to support ease during this time frame in your life. But it's really a matter of prioritizing you and pouring back into your cup and creating that 15 minutes, which is, I find it's also one of the hardest asks I make of people as well.
It's the one that I get the most like facial expression from when I
Mhm.
write up a treatment plan. Like, I need you to take 15 minutes when the kids are in bed before you fall asleep. Like, just take 15 minutes. I want you to read a book. I want you to put on some music. We're going to do some deep breathing. It's 15 minutes. And it's the heart. It's the one word they're just like, it never, like to them, it feels like nothing ever ends. Like their kid, nobody ever goes to sleep. They don't go to sleep. And then they get up and do, it's like on this hamster loop of just doing. And it's like, you can do that. But eventually, like you said, which was so lovely, your body will put you down. Like
Mhm.
your body, it will knock and knock until it kicks the door in, and it will give you these little signals. And that's what I love to call symptoms, is there's signals, like there's signals to a bigger thing going on that needs to be addressed and supported, or just addressed and erased, and or something needs to come in to support you in some way. Is that physical, chemical, or emotional? Or is it a trifecta and it needs to be on all three fronts? But taking care of yourself shouldn't be something that we shun. It shouldn't be something that other people look down on, like, oh, you're not working hard enough. Oh, she went and got herself a massage. Oh, she went on a walk by herself. Because I feel like sometimes like people will judge people for taking that time. And it's like, it's not. Take that time for yourself too. Instead of taking that 15 minutes to judge that person, how about you take that 15 minutes to support your own system that's obviously overwrought? Because I wish I had known these things in my 30s. I went back to chiropractic school at 30. I did prereqs and then went into the program, graduated at 35. So all these big markers I was hitting. And then 35, I graduated. By 39, I had opened my own business, and it was just go. It was the happiest and probably most stressed time of my life. So I didn't recognize it as stress because I was so overjoyed with like my career and what I was doing. But I started to see things that were popping up, and I did the same thing. I was like, oh, nope, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. That can go back there. Oh,
Yep.
I'm going to put that into the backpack and just put it back on and not look at it. It'll go to the bottom. I don't need to deal with it yet, until it kicked in my door. And that's where I think it's come in for me to be able to help my patients better, because I'm coming from that. No, am I exactly like you? Obviously not. No, we are all different snowflakes and all that good stuff. But it helps me to have that sense of compassion and empathy. Like, I understand. And how can we support this so it doesn't continue on this like negative trajectory? It can be a positive trajectory for you. And like you said, sometimes it's not always perimenopause. It's a cycle issue that's not being
Mhm.
addressed.
Mhm.
And that's where you come into play.
Yeah, there's so many things that can actually be cycle related. And so I tend to work at it from the perspective of improving whatever it is that's being seen for symptoms in the cycle, reestablishing a cycle in the case of, where you were talking about the fact that it had disappeared for people. And, once you get it to be in a symptom-free place, now what is it doing? Is it getting lighter? Is there actually a gap that's starting to happen in between because the body's properly resourced and it's happening the way that it's supposed to, not because it's under-resourced and it's operating from a place of scarcity? And it makes a huge difference, because then when you actually start making the transition, because there's energetic pieces that actually hallmark the fact that this transition is happening too, you start asking very specific questions of your life when you start going through this. Like, why am I the only person that can do this? Because the reason that Chinese medicine calls it second spring is because you're stepping into a new phase of your life where you're no longer pouring your chi into creating other lives. You are now
Mhm.
pouring your chi into the creation of your own life. And so,
I
there
love that.
is an energetic shift. I love that too. And it's so beautiful. And it completely shifts the frame of how we think about perimenopause and menopause when we look at it as literally a new birth, a new chapter, a new beginning in terms of how you move through the world and how your world is supposed to feel to you.
Yeah.
It can be such a rewarding and beautiful time if you know what it is that you're looking for and how to support your body in that transition. So I want to be sensitive to your time because I know that you're a busy lady, and I am so incredibly grateful that you carved out this time to talk to all
You're
of
so
my listeners. What final thoughts would you like to leave with people, and how can people find you?
So you can find me at Synaptic Chiropractic. I'm in Westbrook, Maine. Our website is Synaptic DC. So those are the greatest, easiest ways to find us. I would just leave you with the thought that no, you're not crazy. No, you are feeling things, and it's okay to feel these things, but talk to people about them. Don't push them down and just say this is normal because I'm this age, or I should feel bad because, I'm 45 and I should be going through this. My mom went through this when she was early. My aunt did this. It's like, that's lovely for them, but let's change that game for you. Let's change that story. So that's not the story that your daughters might have to tell their practitioners. Like, imagine if we could change that. So I guess I would just say, like, don't hide with these issues. Like, come and talk to people that are in support, that are in community, that can help you create a beautiful transition rather than a negative transition. That's what I would say.
I love that. Thank you so much for
Thank
sharing your
you.
experience and expertise. And if you would like to get a hold of us, please reach out to Dr. Andrea at her website or on Instagram. And if you have any questions about some of the programs that were mentioned coming into Second Spring, there's also one called Cycle Productivity Secrets that helps teach you how to plan your work with the phases of your cycle to help with working in alignment with the energy of your cycle. Feel free to check out moonessence.life/classes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of Reproductive Rebel. Reproductive Rebel is recorded by certified peri-steam hydrotherapist and acutonics practitioner, herbalist, and Chinese nutritional therapist Adrienne Irizarry of Moon Essence LLC. If you are interested in setting up an appointment for one-on-one support, ordering from our store, or checking out our course offerings, visit our website at moonessence.life. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and get insider information on upcoming events and offerings. Join the conversation. Like and follow us at Moon Essence Me on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Your voices make this program possible. Thank you all for your continued support.